प्रातस्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित् सुखं परमहंस गतिं तुरीयम् यत् स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवेति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। देहेन्द्रियगुणान् कर्मान् व्यमले सच्चिदात्मनि अध्यस्यन्त्यविवेकेन गगने नीलतादिवत् अज्ञानान् मानसोपाधेः कर्तृत्वादीनि चात्मनि कल्प्यन्ते मुगते चन्द्रे चलनादि यथाम्भसः रागेच्छा सुखदुःखादि बुद्धौ सत्यां प्रवर्तते सुषुप्तौ नास्ति तन्नाशे तस्मात् बुद्धेस्तु नात्मनः प्रकाशोऽर्कस्य तो यस्य शैत्यमग्नेर्यथोष्णता स्वभावः सच्चिदानन्द नित्यनिर्मलतात्मनः आत्मनः सच्चिदंशश्च बुद्धेर्वृत्तिरिति द्वयम् संयोज्य च विवेकेन जानामीति प्रवर्तते आत्मनो विक्रिया नास्ति बुद्धेर्बोधो न जातीति जीवः सर्वमलं ज्ञात्वा ज्ञाता द्रष्टेति मुह्यति रज्जु सर्पवदात्मानम् जीवो ज्ञात्वा भयं वदेत् नाहं जीवः परात्मेति ज्ञातश्चेन्निर्भयो भवेत् आत्मावभासयत्येको बुद्ध्यादीनीन्द्रियाण्यपि दीपो घटादिवत् स्वात्मा जडैस्तैर्नावभास्यते स्वबोधे नान्यबोधे च बोधरूपतयात्मनः न दीपस्यान्यदीपेच्छा यथा स्वात्मप्रकाशने निषिध्य निखिलोपाधीन्नेति नेतीति वाक्यतः नित्यादैक्यं महावाक्यैर्जीवात्मपरमात्मनोः.
We'll chant verse 24.
प्रकाशोऽर्कस्य तो यस्य शैत्यमग्नेर्यथोष्णता स्वभावः सच्चिदानन्द नित्यनिर्मलतात्मनः.
As luminosity is the nature of sun, coolness of water, and heat of fire, so existence, knowledge, bliss, eternity and purity are the nature of Atman. Swabhava means one's own nature. The bhava, which is the swa itself. Swabhava means one's own inherent nature. One's own inherent nature means that is what it makes what it is, without which it is not what it is. Dharma also, sometimes we use this word. Dharma means essential nature. Here the term used is swabhava. In the 8th chapter of Gita, Krishna says, Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate. What is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? Asks Arjuna. Various terms he asks. What is karma? Like that he asks. In that he says, Aksharam Brahma Paramam. The Supreme Self is the Brahman. Swabhava is Adhyatma. Adhyatma and Brahman are one and the same. It is, you can compare it to sun and sunlight. Sun and sunlight are inseparable. Sunlight is the expression of sun only. They are nothing different from each other. One thing you can say that one ray falls here, one ray falls there, like that it is. Like that, each and every individual is essentially the Brahman. So they are like the sun's rays. The sun's rays is essentially not different from the sun. So, Swabhava is the inherent nature which makes you what you are. Everybody for that matter, every being. So, what makes every being what it is that Supreme Self. Okay. So, what is that Supreme Self? Here is a classical definition given. You cannot really define God. We usually say that it is pointed out by pointers. But this is the closest word that you can get where the essence of what Atma is captured. The term is Sat-Chit-Ananda. As I said in the last class, the invocatory prayer says Sat-Chit Sukham Paramahamsa Gatim Turiyam. So instead of Ananda Sukham is used there. You need not go into the technicality there. It's same as Sat-Chit-Ananda. So in the commentary, Swamiji says refer to verse 24 for the explanation. So what is the essential nature? That which makes it what it is, without which essentially it is not what it is. Sun means luminosity is the nature of the sun. Fire means heat. So heat personified is actually fire. Fire and heat are not different from each other. There can be other qualities which are posed on fire. Like some fire can be red in color or yellow in color, depends on the flame that is coming out of what is being burnt. But you can never find a cold fire. They don't go together. Fire means heat must be there. Water means coolness must be there. Sun means luminosity must be there. Vitality is the essential nature of the sun. So that which makes it what it is called as the Swabhava or the inherent nature. So what is the inherent nature of Atman or Brahman? The inherent nature or Atman or Brahman is Sat-Chit-Ananda. It's a very beautiful term. Combination of the three terms Sat, Chit and Ananda. Apart from that, two other things are given here. Nitya and Nirmala. Nitya and Nirmala are essentially referring to the same Sat-Chit-Ananda only. Nitya means that which is eternal, that which is there at all points of time. So, this aspect of that definition can be used to indicate that pure I within us, which is at all points of time there, not leaving us at all. I is there in the waking state, I is there in the dream state and deep sleep state. I continues to be there, so it is Nitya. Nitya means that which is eternal, that which is at all periods of time, same. Nirmala means that which is without any dirt. It is pure. Mala means dirt, Nirmala means without any dirt. Without any dirt means without anything apart from it. So the I is pure by itself. Nothing else is there. Nothing else can contaminate it, that is first, but nothing else is there. Brahman in itself does not accept the existence of anything else. So it remains Nirmala. So what is Nitya? It is the pure I. What is Nirmala? It is the pure I. The pure I is the Swabhava or your original nature. Pure I refers to the self. That is why in the Abhyasa Vakya it says I am Atma Brahma. The self is Brahman. The self is Brahman. I am essentially Brahman. This is the practice that he is going through. So the inherent nature here is described as Sat-Chit-Ananda. Sat refers to existence. People ask this question very innocuously, and some people in a very argumentative way. They say, does God exist? Really, they do not know what they are asking. Does God exist? God is not defined in terms of that which exists in your consciousness like any other object. So if you say it exists, then they'll say, show me. It is not for diverting that question that we are saying that you must not ask the question. The very definition that Vedanta gives of God is that God is existence. You are asking, does God exist? The moment we ask, does God exist? What is the assumption in the question is that all other things are existing. Like that, does God exist? So the inherent assumption is all other things are existing in time and space. In the factor of x-axis and y-axis of time and space, everything else is existing. Does God also exist in the factor of x-axis and y-axis of time and space? The fallacy here is that time and space itself exists only in your consciousness. See, the moment you say, I am here and I am not there, where are this here and there? The here and there are in your consciousness. Here and there are understood by you. In the last verse, very clearly he said, all the desire, attachment, everything is there in the waking state. It is there when intellect is present. In deep sleep, it is not there. So all of them belong to the intellect. Intellect, time, space, everything comes up only when you are awake. When you are in deep sleep, where is the time? Where is the space? When you are sleeping without any dreams. Dream also has a time and space. We are not talking about dream. When you are sleeping without any dream, there is no time and space. Time and space themselves are part and parcel of the projection. In this whiteboard, you can draw a x-axis and y-axis, and in that x-axis and y-axis, you can draw various equations. Circle has an equation, parabola has an equation, triangle or straight line, various things have various equations. Each and every person is having a particular equation with the world. That is how he projects the world. Duryodhana had an equation, Yudhishthira had another equation, somebody else had some other equation. All the equations are drawn on the graph of x-axis and y-axis, which is the time and space. Finally, when you rub that equation, along with the equation, the x-axis and y-axis also go off. So x-axis and y-axis are not permanent by themselves. They are also part and parcel of the projection. So when the people ask, does God exist? The assumption is that time and space exists, which is not so. Time and space are part of this illusory projection only. So what is it then? How do you explain it? In fact, in one other place in Upanishad it says, or in Gita also I think it comes, that you can call it neither Sat nor Asat. Okay. Neither Sat nor Asat means it does not exist as any other object in your consciousness. Therefore, it is not Sat. But you cannot say it does not exist also, because it is the very basis of all existence. So existence per se is called as Sat, pure existence. What is pure existence? Each and every existence is there and we cognize it or recognize it only with a name and form. Tree exists. Tree has a shape, it has a name, it has a form. It has some properties. When tree is cut, tree is not there anymore. What is there? Wood is there. Wood is different in quality from the tree. It is what was living is now converted into a non-living thing. What was of a complex structure has now become a uniform cylindrical structure. That is wood. Now wood exists. When wood is later made into a furniture, wood does not exist anymore. In that name, in that form, it does not exist. Ideally, you see that tree is existing, but along with that, tree is occupying some space. Tree is there as tree for some time. So time, space and causation are interlinked here. Similarly, wood exists in space, wood exists for a period of time, wood has a certain name and form, wood has some properties. So tree is the cause and wood is the effect, this chain of causation also exists along in the time and space concept for a while. Afterwards, what happens? Wood goes away and a furniture like table is formed. So table exists, you say. It also has got a time, space and causation revolving around what you call as table. Table has a name, table has a form. Then table is cut. Then you have various pieces of small wood or whatever carpentry items you have. That exists. Table does not exist. And then that you burn, what you get? Ashes. Ash exists. That pieces don't exist, table doesn't exist, tree doesn't exist, ashes exist. And then ashes is dissolved, some other thing comes, that exists. So you will find that each and every name and form has a limited period of existence. It comes, it goes, it is born, it is dead. But in and through, there is what is known as this isness. Something exists. Wood is, tree is, wood is, furniture is, ash is. Like that, something is. That isness per se, the existence per se, in its purest form is called as Sat. So each and every one of us in this world exists, and our existence is based on the pure existence. The pure existence is called as Sat. All this is explanation with reference to what we see and what we understand. But you cannot conceive what that pure Sat is. That, think about it, that is Sat. Yes, sir.
Today, in this example, I just want to understand where does causation come in? You got space, time, and causation.
Causation.
How do you equate causation?
The wood is the effect. So the tree was the cause. And then the wood becomes the cause. Then the next thing is the effect. There is a chain of causation that comes. And each and everything, when you arrest at a point of time and space, it has a solid existence. So if you see in the totality, it's a moving phenomenon as it is. It's a continuous.
It is a raw material and end product.
End product. Like that, it continuously it moves. Then it becomes the cause for the other. Like that, it continues. Then.
So in this context, when you're talking about cause, this is not really a particular cause, but he is referring to cause of the causes.
No, it is a particular cause. When we are talking about example of wood, it has a particular effect, means particular cause only it is. So if you like that, you take all aspects of the world, then there will be a cause of everything like that it is. Sat. Then you have Chit. Chit is pure knowledge. This factor that all the living beings are conscious of the existence. So one is that first you say I exist. Then you say that I know I exist. This table does not know that that table is there. That table does not know that the door is there. But how do you know that? I know. I know that the table is there, I am there, this table is there and that door is there. Everything is I know. How do you know? I know. This concept of I know, which is going to be explained in detail in the next verse. This knowing principle is called as Chit. Just as existence is conditioned by name and form, consciousness or knowledge is also conditioned by our thoughts. So you know of something. Knowledge per se, I know. You cannot say that. As of now, we cannot say that. I know means, then you'll ask, you know what? I know such and such thing. Also, I don't know such and such thing. The moment I say I know something, immediately what occurs is the other side, which is ignorance, which I don't know also. But that knowledge, which is the illuminator of both your knowledge and ignorance, is the pure knowledge. That consciousness with which you are aware of what you know is the same consciousness with which you are aware of what you do not know. Swamiji gives this example always that you know my name and you do not know my father's name. So you say that I know your name. I know that I do not know your father's name. So this I know principle is that which illumines the knowledge, which is that you know my Father's name, and the ignorance, which is you do not know my Father's name. Both are illumined by the same consciousness. So that consciousness which is bereft of, devoid of any conditioning in its purest form is called as Chit, which again we cannot conceive. All that we can conceive of is this conditioned knowledge. What we have now is the conditioned knowledge. So pure knowledge is the pure I, which is uncontaminated by any thoughts, anything like that. That is pure I. So Sat, Chit, and the classical term is Ananda. Ananda means bliss. This Ananda cannot be compared with any Ananda that we have experienced in our day-to-day lives. All this bliss that we experience, Sukha that we experience, that is why we give the difference between Sukha and Ananda. Sukha is derived from a experience of a sense object or a even emotional pleasure. There is a contact with an object which gives us pleasure. Your mind is calmed. That is what is called as pleasure. Agitation cease. Cessation of agitation is pleasure. As close to the equilibrium as possible, the mind goes, and it is sort of coming closer and closer to the straight line. That is where you feel a sense of satisfaction, contentment, whatever you want to call it. That is the joy that we know. We do not know of a state where there is absolute bliss. If you want to use the term, in English you use the term bliss. Happiness, joy, sorrow. If they all refer to something else, bliss refers to something else. Bliss is that pure joy again. Pure joy is unconditioned joy where there is no khanda. Khanda means there is no breaking of this joy. Breaking means in the normal joy that we experience, the end of that joy is sorrow. End of that sorrow is joy. Like that, there is a limitation. That means the joy has a beginning and an end. Adyantavantah kaunteya, says Krishna in Gita. All these samsparshaja bhoga, all these contact born pleasures, they have a beginning, they have an end. So there is a limitation about this joy. But imagine a joy which is unlimited. That unlimited has to be infinite joy only. That is why the term Ananta is often used parallelly as Ananda. What is Ananta? Has to be Ananda. It is unbroken bliss. They also use the term Akhanda Ananda. Khanda means that which is cut, that which is limited. Akhanda means unlimited, unlimited bliss. Unlimited Ananda is infinite. A glimpse of that is what we experience in deep sleep. In deep sleep, we are not aware of it at that point of time, but what we go through at that point of time is actually bliss. What is the difference between that bliss and any other bliss that we go through in the waking state now? Is that here we said that the equilibrium of the straight line, which is Brahman, your mind comes closer and closer to it, but there is no cessation of thoughts. There is no mind experience. But in the deep sleep, it is a no mind experience. So here is a corollary that we can derive, that greatest bliss is experienced by you when there is absence of thoughts. The difference between deep sleep and self-realization is that in self-realization, absence of thought, but you are that pure awareness which you are. But in deep sleep, you are not that pure awareness. You identify with that blankness. You identify with that nothingness. I saw nothing. I slept well. Or there was complete vacuum, complete blankness. This is what you say when you wake up. So you are not really aware of that experience at that point of time. So that bliss is just an expression, or you can say that it is giving a glimpse of what it is about. But again, that is broken because when you wake up, all the thoughts come back again. In a way, Swami Ramtita says, the tiredness of waking state leads you to the deep sleep state. The tiredness of sleep makes you wake up. So completely there is a cycle which is helplessly that we are going through. It is a mechanical process, so we also go through this state of deep sleep on a daily basis, without which we may not understand what it is. But imagine a state where you become that very source which is witnessing all these three states. That is the state of self, which is absolute bliss. So, in all these three terms, Sat, Chit and Anand, what we can relate to is in a very minuscule way, what is it is manifest, and that manifest is obviously conditioned. You have to project from this what is it that it is unconditioned. That is called as Sat-Chit-Ananda. So in this way, you can say that your gross body or all the bodies of the world, including all the physical bodies like this, they are all expressions of Sat. They exist. And all the living beings who have consciousness, which we say conditioned consciousness, so inside the gross body there is subtle body. That subtle body is the expression of Chit. And the cause of these two, which is the causal body, is the expression of Ananda. So what we are going through is Sat-Chit-Ananda only. In other words, you are never separate from this Sat-Chit-Ananda. You are always in the Sat-Chit-Ananda. Therefore, it is definitely, we can say it is a my Swabhava. Because when are you not Sat-Chit? In other words, that which makes you what you are, without which you are not what you are, is that original nature. In your original nature, always the Sat-Chit-Ananda is there. Take it out and try to find out any other experience. It is not possible. So Sat-Chit-Ananda is the nature of your real self. You look at it from another way. I exist. Each and everything in the world exists. And how do you know that the world exists? I know that the world exists. So there is an existence factor. There is a knowledge factor that I know that it exists. And each and every relationship in my world, each and every transaction in my world, in this world, each and every experience in this world is aimed towards deriving that bliss, happiness. So each and every transaction is also a combination of Sat-Chit-Ananda only. But the Sat-Chit-Ananda, as we see as expression, Vedanta says, is just a minuscule way of understanding it. In other words, from this expression of Sat-Chit-Ananda, you have to project, you have to imagine the colossal greatness of Brahman. There is a hymn in Vedas which says, I think it comes in Purusha Suktam, Padosya Vishwa Bhutani Tripadasya Amritam Divi. If you ask this question, if you say the entire universe, whatever you can conceive of in the universe, what is discovered by science, what is stated in our Puranas in terms of Brahmaloka and other lokas and 7 lokas below, 7 lokas above, and all these are huge and vast compared to what we know as this world. All this, if you say, is the manifestation, then a very low level person, meaning let's say a very school student type of a person asks, oh, is it all expression of Brahman? Yes. How much of the Brahman has got into manifestation and how much remains as unmanifest as it is? For him an answer is given. Padosya Vishwa Bhutani Tripadasya Amritam Devi. 1/4 has come as manifestation and 3/4 is remaining as in the unmanifest form. But the moment we say this, we are again trying to limit Brahman in some way or the other, which is not possible. That's why I said to a person who is asking, if a school student is asking, does God exist? You don't go into this Vedantic lecture and say that existence is God and all. I'm asking you a simple question. Why don't you answer? Yes, God exists. That's all. Finish. Later he is going to ask, where does it exist? What form does it exist? Does he have form or not? All that questions, when he grows up, it comes later. There you can give. When Vivekananda went to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa first, he asked, have you seen God? Because this is a very real inquiry and a question that he genuinely asked every master, and he asked Ramakrishna also. Everybody else tried to evade that question because they have not really experienced. Paramahamsa from the standard of experience only, but he very clearly said, I have seen God just as I have seen you. Like that only, he said. And he is not bluffing. He is talking about a differential experience at that point of time, but from the point of view of conviction, he said this. Later, probably when Swami Vivekananda will explain Kenopanishad, he will say that which you cannot see is God. That which makes you see is God is the ultimate explanation that he himself is going to say later. But at this point of time, a direct answer is given to him to convince him. Like that it is. So, how much of the God manifests as this entirety of the universe? All the universe, everything that all suns, all planets, all lokas, everything put together, 1/4 and 3/4. That itself, in another context, in the context of Kshara, Akshara, and Uttama Purusha, it is said that each and everything that you see in this universe, last verse of the 10th chapter of Gita also says this. What he says? Atava bahunaitena kim jnatena tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam eka amshena sthito jagat. Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam. Idam kritsnam means all this. All this means all the manifestation, whatever you can think of. Pervading all this by eka amshena. One amsha of me. One amsha means you draw a big circle here and put a small dot. That dot must be as big as it is visible. That's all. It is. You cannot draw smaller than that. So, that you draw a circle itself is limiting, but for the example's sake, you have to draw it. And then you say each and everything is a clear full board only. That small dot that you see is there, that is all this entire universe. So imagine that to that circle, it is uncomparable. And that which is in the dot there is also pervaded by that same circle only, same board only. So the perishable, the imperishable, and the Uttama Purusha concept also says this. So that which is beyond all is also that essentially what is known as Sat-Chit-Ananda. This is called as Svarupa Lakshanam. Svarupa Lakshanam means a direct definition of God. Svarupa Lakshanam means saying it as it is. There are other Lakshanas also in Sanskrit, various ways of pointing out, like Tatastha Lakshanam and all say, you point out something with reference to another. Indirectly. This is not that. This is saying as it is directly. So directly, if anybody asks what is the word that you have for God, we can boldly say it is Sat-Chit-Ananda. Sat-Chit-Ananda is the closest expression of God. And another thing that we can derive from this verse, which is not directly the purport of this verse, is that each and every aspect of the universe also, we have proved that Sat-Chit-Ananda is where we are constantly living. There is nothing that apart from Sat-Chit-Ananda we can go. So the essential nature of each and every being, the essential nature of each and everything is also essentially the Brahman only. It is only in a human being that he can realize the self. But each and every other thing is essentially the Brahman. So without luminosity, sun is not what sun is. Luminosity is Brahman. Coolness in water is Brahman. The heat in fire is Brahman. The sweetness in sugar is Brahman. This is what in 7th chapter and other chapters in Gita he says, I am that. So Krishna claims, who is that? I am that. So I, which is the supreme self, is the essential nature of everything. So that essential nature of everything expresses itself as Sat-Chit-Ananda. Yes.
Sat is Chit is Ananda.
Yes, Sat is Chit is Ananda.
How to go into that understanding?
No, I will say we have to go into that experience only. And the thing is, we cannot, that which is existing as consciousness, and it is existing in a blissful state. So it is not like a...
We have these three things. How do we come to time, space and causation as, the three basic things?
No, this is not...
Come to those 3 points at all.
These three are the three-dimensional way of looking at the same thing. So from our experiential point of view, in other words, when we talk about consciousness and Sat itself, that probably covers everything. But from the original nature point of view of what we are looking forward to, bliss, he says that is your original nature where you experience unbroken bliss. So you look at it from the point of view of existence, that is the existence. You look at it from the point of view of consciousness, that is consciousness. And from the point of view of bliss, what it is trying to say is, bliss is an aspect in our system. See, in other words, you are conscious of all your experiences, and all your experiences, he says, is going through this joy and sorrow. That is what last verse says.
Basically, we are all looking for that.
You're looking for joy. That is, the point is, in each and every experience, there is a joy and sorrow, and all this joy and sorrow, he has said that it belongs to the intellect. It belongs to the intellect. But the real bliss, which is not this joy and sorrow, is actually that. So that bliss is completely different from all your experiential whatever you go through here to probably include that. It is not again to include. It is actually that. It is actually bliss. It is actually Sat. It is actually Chit. That's what he's saying here. Yes, sir.
You said in the deep sleep, also we are in bliss, just that we are not aware. But in the deep sleep, also the I is there. Now that consciousness cannot. How can that consciousness get separated from awareness?
No, it's not separate from awareness. The awareness is there. You do not identify with that awareness. That is my point. You are identifying with that blankness. You are identifying with the nothingness. Otherwise, in deep sleep, that is what next verse is going to directly say. The next verse is going to directly say that if your awareness is there in you at that point of time, you will be saying that I am sleeping, which is not the case. You are not aware of your sleep. Only when you wake up, you say I slept. But somebody was witnessing that sleep, even as you are asleep. That is the pure I.
Now, in the self-realization, I heard somewhere, I don't know in your, that when in self-realization, you identify with everything as same. And, if you have a bhakti for, let us say, Lord Ganesha, then you sing Ganesha in everyone and everything around you. So that awareness, how would you distinguish that kind of awareness in the self-realization stage vis-a-vis something like in the deep sleep?
No. Why are you bringing in deep sleep and self-realization? They are totally two different things. Even in the example that you gave, if it is not that he is seeing Ganesha in all the names and forms. He sees Ganesha as all the names and forms. Ganesha alone he sees, nothing else he sees. Ganesha alone is, nobody else is. He is that Ganesha. So he is that awareness personified. That is the state of self-realization, which it is very futile for us in our discussion here. But in deep sleep, there is no awareness as far as the individual consciousness is concerned. He is only aware of nothing there. As luminosity is the nature of sun, coolness of water and heat of fire, so existence, knowledge, bliss, eternity and purity are the nature of Atman. We'll chant verse 20. Yes, sir.
So on the word eternity, so Brahman is eternal. And individual Atman is essentially a part of Brahman.
Individual Atman is essentially Brahman.
Essentially Brahman. So upon gaining self-realization, it merges into Brahman in a way, more in a colloquial way, it merges into Brahman, which is eternal. That is why we are saying Atman is eternal.
Yeah, Atman is, it is not, after realization you realize that, that's about all. But it has been eternal always. It has been always there. Even in the state of that you are an individual, this individuality is there always. Because the conscious entity in you has been there always. It only has taken various births in various bodies and various names and forms. But that is what is Krishna emphasizing in Gita, that why do you desist from fighting the war? You can never kill anybody because I am always there. Not only you, all these people here are always there. So that which is always there in you is that essential self only, which upon realization you just realize. That is the difference.
But the individual Atman ceases to exist because it is essentially Brahman only. So when it merges into Brahman, which is eternal, that is why...
It is not, that is what I am saying. Earlier also it was not different from Brahman. It is the same.
That is why it is eternal.
It is eternal. Because it is Brahman, it is eternal. It is not different from Brahman. It's not different. We'll chant verse 25.
Atmana Sat-Chit-Ananda buddhirvrittirite samyojya cha vivekena janamiti pravartate.
by the indiscriminate union of the two, namely existence intelligence aspect of the self and the function of the intellect, there arises the notion of I know. Janami. Janami means I know. I know refers to the conditioned consciousness of the individual. Each and everything, if you go into your experience and you ask, what are you doing? I'm doing this. What did you do? Then I was doing that. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. How do you know? How do you know means you can't answer the question. You will only say, I know. I know. What are you doing now? I am sitting in the class. How do you know that you are sitting in the class? Say, what is this question? I know that I am sitting in the class. How do you know? I know. I know is the only answer that you can give. Janami. I know it. This notion, how does it arise? This verse explains it beautifully. This is one of the key verses in understanding how the notion comes as an individual. The union of the two, which is the spirit and matter, spelt out very clearly in this verse. And it is more precise in this verse. Most of you might remember this diagram, which is there in, I think, Upanishad book also. In Upanishad. There is this trough of water. In that, there is a incident ray comes and there is a reflected ray here. This is thoughts. This is pure consciousness. This is conditioned consciousness. This is for the sake of example that we are drawing as a trough of water. Then there's a incident ray, then there's a reflected ray. This conditioned consciousness is the notion of I know. This is the individual. In this diagram, PC is the pure consciousness. The thoughts are inert and insentient per se. And that which enlivens the thought is the pure consciousness. The moment the enlivening happens, it is converted into what is known as a conditioned consciousness, as it were. Here, what is that we know is what is given on the right side as I know. Janami. So what is everything in this world, in your experience, is known to you. You know all these things that are there around your world, around you in the world. Yes, I know. I know that. I know X, Y, Z. I know this, I know that. I know concepts, I know emotions, I know my perceptions, I know my actions. All these things I know. What I see, I know. And what this notion of I know, he says, has two components in it. One component is the consciousness component. And in that consciousness also, very carefully in this verse, he says, very precisely he says, Sat-Chit-Ananda. He does not say Ananda aspect of the self here. He says only these two aspects of the self. Sat aspect and Chit aspect. They combine, they means that self which is Sat-Chit, that combines with your thoughts. And then you have this notion of I know. So, there is no way to prove this by real experience, but if you can switch off the consciousness, all the things that you claim to know now, they are actually unknown. So, take that example of in physics, that what do you see? So if you ask anybody, what do you see here? Everybody will say, I see a pen. But is it actually the pen only? It is the light that is getting reflected on this object, which is the pen. So what is seen is actually the object plus light. Without light, it is not possible for you to see it. When all the lights are switched off, I have the pen in my hand and I ask you, do you see anything? I don't see. So actually pen is unseen. pen per se, object per se is unseen. What is seen is light plus pen. It's an interesting thought here. Light per se is also not seen. Pen per se is also not seen. But the combination of light and pen is seen. It is like a magic, it is. So, but what is interesting is light is there always. In this example only you can switch off the light. But imagine light is there always. In between you and me, light is there. But you are not able to see the light. But light is there always. But an object comes in between, then you are able to see it. So what is seen is pen plus the light, or light plus object is seen. What is unseen is the object. So what is the equation for light? What is the equation?
Seen minus
In
unseen.
minus object.
Seen minus unseen. Correct. Seen minus object. From what you see, if you take away the object, what you can imagine is the light. Why I say what you can imagine is light cannot be seen. Pure light cannot be seen. Pure light, obviously, we can imagine. From what all you see, you take away all the objects, what remains is pure light. Like that we can explain. Exactly like that. All that you know is the combination of consciousness plus the thoughts. Why he says Sat-Chit is each and everything that you can conceive of what you know internally and externally. What you know through your senses outside, what you know by your thoughts inside, each and everything is actually some form of existence only. Even abstract concepts like, sir, I know what communism is. I ask you, what is communism? I say, you know communism, then think of communism. What will you think of?
Russia.
Russia. Okay, I say, think of Russia. What do you think of?
Communism.
Okay, both Russia, then draw that Russia here then. Come and draw that communism here. Sickle and hammer. Sickle and hammer is correct. It is a symbol of Communist Party. It's election symbol. What is communism but?
It's an idea.
It's an idea, but you say you know that idea, then you have to show me that idea. How will you show that idea? How will you explain that idea?
How people live,
In words. How people live. There is a
equality, or
everybody equal, whatever it is, distribution of wealth. So you have to imagine wealth, you have to imagine distribution, you have to imagine people, you have to imagine rivers flowing or whatever in honey flowing everywhere. All this is the idea that you have of communism. So Russia means, again you have to think of the building there, or think of the Russian people there, Russian leader Putin, or somebody, or a Russian athletes, or Russian thinkers. All this is together is Russia. So you cannot think of anything apart from an existence of any particular being or an object. That aspect is part and parcel of your thoughts. That thought, which is enlivened by what we studied previously as consciousness, which is the aspect of Sat-Chit here. The Sat-Chit aspect, why he very clearly says Sat-Chit aspect is, the Ananda aspect does not combine with consciousness to form this notion of I know. Ananda is consciousness. There's no doubt about it. But this pool that is here, it seems to be withdrawn somewhere. So there's no reflection. If there was reflection of that, then you will have that notion of I know in deep sleep also, which is not the case. Go back to Swami Ramtirtha's example again. When the river is in the glacier form, there is no reflection of sun in it. Only when the glacier melts into a rivulet, small river, and then a big river, then there is a reflection. When it is a small river, it is the subtle body. When it is a big river in the plains, it is the gross body. There the reflection of sun is there, and it very clearly has various properties, everything that it has. But when it is in the glacier form, which is the origin or source of that river, it does not have any reflection. So therefore, there is no combination or reflection as it is in the other two states. So very clearly he says, Atmana Sat-Chit-Amshasya, the Amsha of Sat-Chit, of the self, in combination with the thoughts, gives rise to the individuality in you or the notion in you that I know. This I know seems to be the basis of our existence. This is a famous statement of the Roman Latin philosopher Descartes, isn't it? He said, cogito ergo sum, meaning, I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am. Carefully analyze the statement and contrast it with what Vedanta says. Vedanta says, I am, therefore I think. In other words, that amness, your existence, is the basis of your thoughts. Your thoughts are not the basis for your existence. Because when in deep sleep, when your thoughts are absent, you are still existing. In a coma state, you are still existing. Thoughts are not there. Thoughts do not form the basis of your existence. It is the existence per se that forms the basis of your thoughts. That in a limited way, when we exist, we claim with that notion that I know. This I know is a very stupid notion, which he is going to dismiss in the next verse. But he says, how does this notion arise? That is why in this verse he says, Samyojya cha avivekena. It is an indiscriminate union, as it were. It is not a very solid combination of these two. It somehow happens, he says, like that it is. Meaning it is in your imagination. It is in your limited view of your experience. It is not actually there. Yes.
So are you saying that Sat needs to be there for Chit to happen?
See, in this question you are assuming Sat and Chit are different.
You said that existence from the basis of thought.
Existence forms the base. See, that is what, when you say thought is not Chit. Chit is consciousness only. That is existing. But when I say I think, therefore I am, I think means I think of something. That is conditioned consciousness. That thoughts does not form the basis of your real existence. Your real existence form the basis on which these thoughts appear and disappear like waves in the ocean. That is what we have to, deeply see here. So what he says is that I am thinking now, I am conscious, therefore I am. So the existence, he says, this is probably from where, if you derive, or if there is a parallel in the modern science in understanding consciousness, that consciousness is a function of brain. Certain matters combine here, and somehow we may not be able to explain to you now, but we are giving a theory that it is a reaction of some chemicals and other things from which consciousness is born. The matter which is creating the consciousness, that is the basis, that is the reality. And from where this consciousness is born is the claim of some set of scientists. Earlier also they had that Charvak philosophy also talked about the pure existence of material world as real. And consciousness just comes and goes in this. This is their claim. Vedanta says it is just the ulta. Consciousness is the basis of all existence, in which this wave comes and goes. The wave of thought comes and goes.
Sorry. In this, when we say Sat-Chit-Ananda, it is complete. That is the state of the Atman, Over here, we are saying this is Sat and Chit. Basically, somewhere Ananda has got lost.
Ananda has not got lost. When you say this, what is this referring to here? This refers to I know.
Yeah.
This I know, that you are not claiming that I know when you are in deep sleep. You are not in deep, when you are in deep sleep, you are not claiming this I know. This I know, which is seems to be the basis of your existence as an individual, which is available for you only in waking and dream state. This notion I am saying, this notion is available for you in waking and dream state. He says that is a combination, or that is when your thoughts are enlivened by Atman. That is Sat-Chit aspect of the Atman. Ananda is not lost anywhere. Yes, in your experience it is lost, you can say like that.
Basically, I'm just trying to get an equation, if there is one, that losing of Ananda is the cause is ignorance.
Individual itself is product of ignorance only that way. There is no...
In that individuality, basically, it is that aspect that is lost. That is because of ignorance. Otherwise, the I know
is also...
Sat-Chit is still there.
No, I know is also product of ignorance. I know what? You do not know the pure I. What you know is only expression of that ignorance only further. In other words, waking and dream states are only expression of deep sleep only further. So there is nothing different there. So Sat-Chit-Ananda in total we have forgotten in its purest form. But what we experience is Sat-Chit-Ananda in a different way. Yes.
So can we say pure consciousness where we don't have thoughts or we have not been exposed to the world? We are in pure consciousness state, so that's the child state where there is he's also got thoughts of his past or what?
He does have thoughts of his past in its own hazy way. But all this is, you can say, is child or the child when it is in the womb also like that. They are also in a sleep state only. Trees express life, but they are also like in a sleep state only. They do not have thoughts as it were like what we have. That does not mean that any of them are self-realized or aware of that pure state of consciousness. It is just that everything is hidden deep below. As and when they grow, as and when they evolve, all those thoughts also come into existence. Now, in this, what you need to further analyze in this diagram is, when we talk about thoughts here, why does he say it's a samyoja avivekena? It's a indiscriminate union. Rather, in the next verse, he is going to say that such a union is unholy. Spirit and matter cannot combine. It's unholy. Not only unholy, it is impossible. It is impossible. So, in other words, there's no combination. There's no combination. So, but I see that combination. Yes, it is in your mind. It is in your existence. It is in your experience. That's all he is saying. But how do we say that it is an unholy combination or it is an impossible combination? All that I will give a clue. You think about it. You need to find out, when we say thoughts here, as to whose thoughts is it? Or what does it really represent? If you are able to go into that aspect and analyze, you will get more clarity in that. It's a very, very interesting verse to reflect deeply upon it.
So you said about the thoughts, you said that they are, what was the word you used?
Inert and
inert. They are inert. So, and because of the pure consciousness reflection, sort of it enlivens and you get the conditioned consciousness. But when you're talking about thoughts over here, is it collective thoughts or individual thoughts? I'm just getting it.
That is what I'm asking you to find out. What does this thought represent? Whose thought it is as it is? Is there any, that notion that you are saying individual thoughts and collective thoughts, is there any notion like that itself? Is there a demarcation or separation there? That itself you need to analyze.
The inert means not moving.
Inert means, yes, dead matter type of thing.
And insentient?
Insentient means, again, same thing, not having any consciousness. Insentient. Inert and insentient, they are used together, or at least we have heard Swamiji use it together always. So like we say that electric bulb is inert and insentient. When electricity passes through it, it gets light. It gives light. So light is not per se in the electricity. Light is not per se in the bulb. It is a combination that produces this sort of a magic. So that way you can say, definitely bulb is dependent on the electricity. That is clear. All the insentient matter is dependent on consciousness. Only then there is expression. But we may not use the word dependent, but consciousness also needs the matter for expression. If you want to see expression, it does not want to express, it does not want not to express. That is the state of that witness consciousness. But if you want to see expression, if you want the expression of Brahman, it is only with a combination or in touch with that matter can it also express itself. By the indiscriminate union of the two, namely existence intelligence aspect of the self and the function of the intellect, there arises the notion of I know. verse 26 we'll chant.
आत्मनो विक्रिया नास्ति बुद्धिर्बोधो न जात्यति जीवः सर्वमलं ज्ञात्वा ज्ञाता द्रष्टेति मुह्यति.
Atman never undergoes modification. The intellect is never endowed with knowledge. Yet, an individual having known all as it is becomes deluded with the notions of I am the seer, I am the knower. Jnata drashta iti muhyati. This is a clear-cut continuation of the previous verse. It is a deluded notion that you say that I know, I see. We'll take the purport of the verse in the next class. I'll finish with a story which is given in the book also, you can read later. There is a lady called Margaret. Margaret is living near a seashore in some village. One day, she sees a merman. Merman is the male form of mermaid. Merman means half man and half fish. He is living in the ocean. She falls in love with him and enters the ocean and starts to live with him. They get married. So deep somewhere in the ocean they are living. In the due course of time they beget 6 children. And she has completely forgotten herself and she is there enjoying all the plus and minuses and sukha and dukkha there, and she is continuing with her life. And one day there was a bell in the church that rang. That church is there near the ocean where she was living. This noise reaches her suddenly. Once the noise reaches her, she wakes up and she leaves everything abruptly and goes to the surface of the ocean and out of the ocean. The family with the merman and the children, they follow her. She now enters the church and she is completely into the union there. They tempt her, they try to call her, they plead her. She is not budging. And this is the story. She is there. She has found her own place. In this story, this marriage between Merman and Margaret is actually unholy marriage. Not only unholy, it is impossible marriage because there is no such thing as a Merman. But this is a beautiful story. But this is exactly what we do. That there is something which is not there, we get married to that, and because of that we get into all what is known as samsara. Samsara is what is beautifully represented as ocean here. Deep inside you go, and in that what do you get? 6 children, which is the 6 modifications of the desire, the kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, all this thing that we get. And you go through the motions of it, happiness, sorrow, all these things that we go through. All are not going to make any change in our lives or going to bring any paradigm shift in our lives till we hear the bell of the church, which is the voice of your conscience from within to say that what are you doing in this world? This is not what you are supposed to do. This noise, or maybe some guru enters our life and tells us whatever it is. At that point, whatever he says, Tattvamasi, that statement is something ringing within us. From that time onwards, you are not yourself anymore. You are in search of yourself, so you come to the surface, you want to cross out of that ocean. And then you see church, which is talking about a place where you do spiritual sadhana, as it were. And then there is a merger within. The external world then loses its temptation. They cannot do anything to you. This is a very beautiful story. But what we need to understand in the story is, this marriage is, in the legal term, what do they use? Void ab initio. It is void from the beginning. It is just not possible. But we have signed that marriage contract and we are going through all, and we are feeling bound by that marriage contract. And we feel extremely pressurized by all the result of that marriage, which is the children and all, which is one term that beautifully we use is samsara that we get into. So always be alert about that noise or the voice that comes from within, which is actually pulling you towards your original nature. That is where you belong to. I belong to here. How did I lose myself? Oh, I really do not know. Actually, you have not lost yourself. As the masters have only this statement to say, wake up, wake up, wake up. You have lost yourself. You have lost yourself. Very innocuously, we ask this question: how did I lose myself? How did I lose myself? This is the question. Think about this question. We'll continue with this question in the next class. This question per se has no answer. But this question is termed as a fallacious question. This is not a question which you can claim legitimacy about because there is a fallacy in the question. Try to think out what that fallacy is. We'll meet in the next class. Oh, Paramash.
Poornam Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.